we can reluctantly move away from our own club now and out towards the general Premier League vista. And it would be a very strange transfer show if we didn't have at least one Chelsea-related story. And this one is, as ever with these guys, an absolute belter. You were sending me bits and bobs during the week because I was kind of out of the loop. And I was just cackling away to myself. We've had all this stuff about, inventive ways of pulling levers and pushing levers. And we've seen Barcelona become the masters at this. But since Boehly's been at Chelsea, I don't know what he's done, but he's obviously hired the best team of legal and financial experts in the world. And they found all these ways around stuff that you look at and you go, that can't be right. And yet there's no lawsuit. They're fine. So just talk to us a little bit around this story, because it's not just Chelsea. There's Villa as well. It's all about keeping to specific regulations that they're not doing. There's stuff about selling women's teams to themselves and elsewhere. It's a bit of a minefield. So if you wouldn't mind walking us through it.
Yeah, from the owners that bought you 9-year contracts and selling hotels and selling the women's team to themselves, that UEFA have looked at this, and naturally they have stronger rules. I'm not saying UEFA are clean by any means, but they have a bit stronger rules than the Premier League, and have looked at it and gone, this is absolute nonsense. You are not allowed to count those types of things in your account. So by that nature, you do not comply with the way we see it. So Chelsea are in talks with settling with them, and it could, well, irony, could just be a fine after all that. Do you know what I mean? They just give you away for 10 million quid or whatever just to make it. Or it's just funny, isn't it? That like all the things like that, it could just be another fine. The best bit now is the Premier League have asked Todd Boehly for more details on a company he owns, because in Chelsea's account, something like 40% or something of the corporate tickets bought at Chelsea. Remember they had the big, the £5,000 ticket and all the things they did, have been bought by a certain company. Would you like to guess who the owner of that American company actually is?
I couldn't possibly guess.
You know what I mean? So that's the Premier League of, how do they put it? When someone's maybe a spot of legal bother and we ask for their observations on an investigation, it's that type of scenario. So that is definitely one to watch. Now, Aston Villa, who are also having a few PSR issues, have probably gone, do you know who's got a really good legal team and accountants? Them Chelsea boys have got idea. Should we just sell our women's team, as it says on the screen there, are genuinely looking at it? Because even with the Durand sale, Trev, they're really apparently on the line, as a lot of journos will tell you, especially ones who cover Villa in that neck of the woods. So people are now thinking, if Villa don't get Champions League, which is a real risk of that, it kind of nukes their hopes of getting Rashford permanently. It nukes their hopes of getting Asensio on a permanent deal. And if they do want to do that, and they could get them in Europa, it could be. I'm manifesting this because this is my dream. I would love them to put Morgan Rogers up for sale and Liverpool come in and take him, because I think he's an absolute superstar in the making. But Kamara with a few years left as well. There's a lot of question marks around Villa. The funny thing is, and this is a big shout out to Professor Kieran Maguire, who is on Money Talks with Mo Chaptra. He commented when asked about this article and said, it will be interesting because the sheet value, I think they call it, of Aston Villa's women's team was about 2 million quid and something like 400 grand in assets. So if Villa do sell it to themselves for about 80 million quid or whatever it is, we're still waiting for the City result, aren't we, of all that? But just the simple answer is, no one knows what's going on with the rules. No one knows if there is any rules, and no one knows who's following the rules at the same time. But God bless Sweeney Todd. He gives us something every week.
Can I just read to you what happens when you Google Chelsea sell women's team? Here's what comes up. A little extract from a New York Times article. And it goes like this. The full figures for 23-24 were released on Saturday morning and confirmed that Chelsea valued their women's team at £200 million or $258 million. When selling it to Blueco 22 Midco Limited, and here's the good bit, a company within the club's broader legal structure. I mean, you literally could not make this stuff up. It is remarkable. And like I say, and like you've already emphasized and doubled down on, they seem to know what they're doing in terms of getting away with it. So if it is just a little slap on the wrist, fine, they will absolutely consider that to be the cost of doing business and get on with it, you'd imagine. Let's watch that one. And Villa, of course, getting dragged into it as well. It's so interesting. City are having their travails this campaign. I think a lot of us are watching it and quite pleased at the fact that, you know, maybe a certain Spaniard is having to learn a little humility. But there was a universal reaction of, hey, great to see you. You've been one of my favorite players. Thanks for all you've contributed, from Liverpool fans. When Kevin De Bruyne said that he was going to hang up his boots at City and move on at the end of this campaign. That is a really interesting angle in and of itself, and it shows a very well-liked football. I wonder how many would do that for Salah, who's I would say, if anything, an overtly nicer lad. I'm wondering what it is that De Bruyne does that allows so many people to be so fond of him. That's one thing. But they will have to replace Kevin De Bruyne, and there is a very high-profile German lad who's being linked with them. So tell us this story.
Yeah, De Bruyne does the whole message, doesn't he? Like, blah, blah, blah. I don't think anyone was surprised by this, really, just having watched it. In a way, as much as I love beating City, there was a little bit, just a small bit of sadness for me when I was watching how bad De Bruyne was in that game and how much he'd fallen. You know, a Premier League legend, whether people love him, like him or not, that just came down a fair few levels that day if it hadn't happened before. So there's that. The other thing that came out last night, which is another City player, which I thought was absolutely amazing. Matheus Nunes was brought up by a journalist, and he's been playing right back for them, mainly because Kyle Walker's gone and all that. And he was asked about him, Guardiola, and he says, yeah, with a bit of development, he could be a right back. He's got the intensity, the running bits. And the journalist said, well, do you not see him as midfield? And he was pretty much, nah, he's not good enough to play in the middle, so that's why we're looking at him at a right back, basically. So Matheus Nunes, I suspect, is talking to his agent at some time in the last day or so. That was fascinating if anyone wants to watch that clip. And then the name, there you go. JK has put it in the chat panel. Yeah, speaking to journalists, provided obviously there's no transfer ban, and we'll have to see what unveils from that. But the name at City that a lot of journalists are getting, Florian Wirtz, Leverkusen, attacking midfielder. They've looked at a few, and it will be big money. Let's just be clear. And Bayern will be in the mix, and Real Madrid. It would be huge money to get this kid. But in fairness, if you are wanting to replace someone of De Bruyne's level, never going to be cheap, was it?
No, of course not. And anyone who's looking to replace Kevin De Bruyne is on a loser straight away anyway. It would be like someone coming in a like-for-like swap with the guy I mentioned, Mo Salah. You're on a hiding to nothing, to say the least. So I imagine they will do what we would have to do if we were trying to replace Mo, which would be to sort of replace him in the aggregate as opposed to one for one. It's not really a doable thing. We'll finish then with our nominal title rivals, Arsenal, who have closed in a little bit in terms of us dropping all 3 points and them gaining 1. The thing that they've done most of their crying about and it's a spectacular sort of smorgasbord of crying that they've been doing about all sorts of topics, endlessly crying. But the one thing they mention all the time is we don't have a striker, we need a striker. We saw the club getting pelters from their own fans for not getting that striker in summer, and again at Christmas time in the winter window.
Yeah.
And now they are being linked with a lad who Liverpool were linked with before as well, who is very highly rated, Gyökeres. Is there anything to this? Because I don't like the sound of them getting a very good footballer. And is there anything else sort of in the connections here? Anything else in the story?
Yeah, I think unfortunately that there does seem to be. I mean, the one thing you could never argue about Arsenal is I think it's foolish largely, but they do back Lego Head big time every summer, don't they? You know, I think it's 700 million, and it doesn't look like the Cronkies are set to pull away that checkbook. David Ornstein had it that, yeah, Victor Gyökeres is a strong option. And there's quite a few journos have even got it, suggestions that his agent will be sat with the new Arsenal sporting director even at this game. So I think we'd almost be amazed if there's not something serious in this one now. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Gyökeres does end up at the Emirates. So that's the first one. And they wanted a striker. They tried for Ollie Watkins, didn't they, in Jan? It's foolish bid, left it too late. But so the money must be there, although people talk about their FFP. The other interesting one, which quite a few journalists have talked about as well, Trev, and Nico Williams, Spanish international, Basque at Atletico Bilbao on a huge wage at Atletico Bilbao. So they'd have to give him a huge wage to get it. But Arsenal seem to be making a serious play for this kid. And before people say, oh, no, it's not their time, it's exactly from the Arteta playbook. Because what he will do is bring a player in. And if they don't come up to standards at any time, dust. Look at Ramsdale. Brought up for big money, doesn't do it, dust. Raya comes in. Look at Thomas Partey at first brought in, doesn't do it, dust. Declan Rice comes in. To be fair, he doesn't quite do it as a 6, so dust. Partey comes back and plays the 6, but he will just move people around, no issue at all, without a heartbeat. And the one player that a lot of journalists are saying to keep an eye on, if Nico Williams does come in, Gabriel Martinelli's had a bit of a stinker this season, hasn't he, on the left-hand side, really. He's had injuries late recently, but it's not been a good season for the kid at all. So there's a real expectation that it moves him to number 2 in the left-wing pecking order if Nico Williams does come in. So it will be interesting to see how he takes that one as well. But, yeah, they back them. They back him again and again. Don't be surprised if Lego Head is now back to the tune of 800, 900 million, and Arsenal really go for these players this summer.